Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. Today I have Praveen with me. We are going to have a mock interview, and Praveen is going to explain what he do in day to day, and he's going to uh, explain what he knows on the Azure platform and his experience and all those things he's going to cover. Okay, and Praveen, let's get started. So I'll be your technical panel today, and you are going to tell me about your experience. Okay. So Praveen, so the role which you are going to be interviewed is for the cloud engineer, or I would say senior cloud engineer, which is like a L2 plus or L3 as well, I would say. So what we are looking for the candidate is who has experience into the Windows and Linux platform, as well as some experience in networking, and around at least 3 to 4 years of experience on the Microsoft Azure platform, who is basically good with the cloud operations and cloud architectures, and good experience in collaborating with the external stakeholders, customers, right? And kind of experience on the Azure automation task. Okay, that's what we are looking for. And this interview, we will split into a couple of, you know, uh, modules, I would say. Let's start with your introduction. So we will understand your day-to-day, your total experience, and what are the areas you worked on it. And we'll try to understand your skills on Azure environment. Then we'll go into deep technical queries. We'll try to understand all the areas of infrastructure and PaaS components, and your architecture experience and your troubleshoot experience. Okay. So with that being said, let's get started with your introduction. Why don't you introduce yourself and give us your experience?
Yeah, sure, Kamal. Yeah. Myself, Praveen. So I have like 6 to 7 years of experience in IT infrastructure. So out of which 5 years I was into on-premise infrastructure. So recent like 2 3 years I am into the Azure platform. So where I used to handle AD management, Azure PaaS and IaaS component creation and management and backup and restores and working on NSGs and load balancer setups, creating point-to-site connections for our remote users, and providing high availability through load balancer as well as firewall setups in our project. So since we are handling multiple projects, so each projects might be differ in different ways. Some projects are like on-premise, some projects are like hybrid setups, some projects are purely on Azure based. So we used to support all kind of applications or projects, and we used to monitor the applications based on for the performance as well as the any bottlenecks kind of things. We used to monitor through application through like Azure Monitor as well as App Insights. We set up App Insight for all applications, and the servers are monitored through a SCOM. In case of if it is in on-premise, if it is in the cloud, we used to monitor those things through Azure Monitor. And we used to work on providing access to users who are newly created, and group management, like adding users and removing groups, removing user from the groups. It may be based on dynamic groups as well as the basic groups. We used to create rules to set up dynamic groups in based on their roles or based on their departments. And I used to work on role RBAC permissions and permission related troubleshootings for our subscription as well as the Azure AD permission levels. And these are the basic thing I used to do. It's not limited to this, but yeah, these are the my daily day-to-day activity, Kamal.
Okay, thank you, Praveen. So anything towards to automation? Do you have any experience towards to automation in the cloud environment?
I am not much knowledge in automation, but I can create ARM templates for creating resources like VM storage kind of stuff, and I can reuse the ARM template what I have for for multiple purpose.
Okay. How about Terraform? Do you have any idea about Terraform?
No, Kamal, I don't have idea on
Okay.
Terraform.
Okay. And do you also have experience into the PowerShell scripting?
Yeah, I have some knowledge, but yeah, not much.
Okay. So usually, right, I see you mentioned a lot of things in the cloud, which is really good, right? You
Mhm.
you have got experience, most of the times, and people don't get access to everything, but it seems like you were able to manage the all Azure infra components. That's really good. So, how was your day start actually? When you log in, right? So what do you do?
Yeah, Kamal, yeah. So we have a ticketing system. So we used to watch for our queue for any new tickets. The tickets may be service request or it may be incident for something, if anything critical. So maybe it may be change request. So depending on the requirement, we used to segregate the request like SR, CR, and incidents. So we use to monitor the queues as well as since we have monitoring the resources through our Azure monitoring system, we used to get alerts from there if any performance issue or any utilization issue. So we used to work on those. We used to watch for these emails and we used to work accordingly. And in case of any incidents, critical incident, we used to get an email from application team or the users. So we jump into the call or something. So we used to look into that with the application team as well as network team. Whoever is required in that call, we used to add them and we used to analyze the performance issue or whatever it may be. And yeah, then we will have a call with our internal team on a daily basis. So we'll just try to help each other with their hurdles, what they have. Um, yeah, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so are you working as an engineer, or you are also working like a technical lead or team lead? So what's your current role?
I'm into a L2 level, Kamal. We have a team of for L1, L2 as well as L3, but I'm into L2. Kamal.
Okay, 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 that's good. So let's see few technical areas. So we'll start with the compute side, right? Um, so how many virtual machines you managed in your experience?
So we have multiple projects. Each project may have like 10 to 15 VMs, and application may have a different environment like development, testing, and pre-production and production kind of things. So each environment will have 8 to 10 machines. So if you consider for a single application, which will be having like 30 to 40 minutes, so we are like managing 7 to 8 applications. So so the number of servers will be like 18 to 40, like yeah, kind of
Okay,
200 plus
so
system.
okay, you managed a large Azure infrastructure. Okay, so what kind of issues you experienced, with respect to the virtual machines?
It is not much related. I would say it's not directly associated with the VMs. So we used to get like alerts like performance issue. So we used to see where it is lagging. So it may be because of the VM, or it may be because of the database, or it may be due to the access restriction in the file share servers. So based on the scenario, we used to look into the issue, Kamal. It's not only for VMs. It may be depends on the situation, right?
Okay, when you see a performance issue, right?
Mhm.
How do you get started with your troubleshooting?
Yeah. So we have set up app insight for almost all applications. So we log into the Azure portal and we used to look into the app insight. So which will give you the insights of where it is your application is lagging. So we used to have a application team also with us. So we used to analyze uh, the metrics on that. So also we used to look into the server utilization. So if the CPU or memory is consuming too high, so maybe we need to have a reboot or we need to kill some sessions which is consuming more. And if server side everything's good, so we used to see the logs, like IAS logs or the app insight
So
logs.
let's say the server is,
Hmm.
it's not able to connect. I mean, you're not able to connect to the server. So your application team complained that the application is very slow, and
Hmm.
you try to connect to the server to check which process is consuming more resources or which application is consuming more resources, but it's not letting you log into the server. What do you do in such scenarios? It's a production server.
Yeah. I used to check whether the server is up and running from the boot diagnostic setting in the Azure portal. We can see the status of the server. If the server is running there, so I can RDP there. So if still it is not happening, so I need to check the like connectivity status, whether anywhere it is blocking the RDP from my subnet or my system to the particular server subnet. So based on that, we will work on that commands. Usually, I used to check the boot diagnostic whether the system is up and running or
Okay,
not.
let's say system is up and running. You see the VM status running, and the boot diagnostic says control alt delete screen.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to troubleshoot the performance issues, or at least you have to come out of the problem. You're not able to RDP, you're not able to perform any action. So then
Okay.
what
Okay.
steps you do?
Okay.
Have you come across
So
such situation in the past?
yeah, usually, but yeah, usually, so if server is up and running, but I'm unable to connect to that machine, so I used to check the IP flow, IP verify flow in the network watcher whether I have any restriction in the network side. If that is
Um,
good, yeah.
okay, so it's not a network issue though, right? The
Okay.
server is performance. Like you checked on the Azure side, it's going, the memory is going 98 percentage or 99 percentage utilization.
Okay.
So you are not able to connect. So what is the first
Yeah,
thing that you
understood.
do?
Yeah. So if that is the case, maybe it may be because of the Azure hosting machine where the physical server is hosting the our client machine. So that may be having some issue in the hardware side. So in those scenario, we need to go for redeployment of our VMs. We used to get approvals from our application team or the management team, whether we can go for a redeploy or not. So based on their response, we used to go for the redeployment command.
Okay, so usually, right, for any performance issues, when you see you're not able to connect, and
Hmm.
the utilization is going 99% or above, right?
Hmm.
So you only option what you usually have is the reboot of the server. Once the server
Hmm.
is rebooted, you usually connect to the server and take RTP and try to check what's going wrong there, right? So that's what
Yeah.
you have to follow. But usually, right,
Hmm.
we will not let the system go to that level, right? So
Hmm.
we will have some kind of monitoring in place. See, 99% utilization is really not a good
Hmm.
situation, right? So, and that too for the production. So you usually configure the alerts or performance monitoring 80% or 85% more. If you are
Yeah.
getting that, right, you get an email or you get a ticket
Email,
created for
yes.
your operations team, and operations team responsibility is to go and check the server and try to analyze it. So usually will not go to that level of situation where server is already a 99% utilization. If it is the situation, then the only option is to reboot the server and
Mhm.
try to log into the server and see if what is causing the problem, right? So that's one thing
Mhm.
that you can do. And so once you log into the server, you run the performance monitor and see which application, which process is consuming more resources. So those kind of
Yeah.
things. There are OS internal tools that you can use it to understand the problem. But ideally, right, as an Azure engineer, so it's not your responsibility. Usually,
Mhm.
the core operating system team, or Windows Server operating system team, or maybe if it's a Linux server, Linux team is will have SMEs, and they'll be able to check it out. In case if your company is on the environment where they cannot they have a one team manage everything, that's where you might have to know have knowledge on this Windows internal component. components
Yeah,
and how
yeah,
we
understood.
troubleshoot it. Okay, that's about the
Mhm,
performance issues. Otherwise, right, it's quite common, you get a ticket and your team application team come to you and say okay, this 90% utilization in the server, and you have to reach out to OS team to check, and OS team will log into the server and check which is consuming more resources, and if it is application service, probably maybe some Java JDK versions and older version, maybe the application needs some fine tune. So those things, the application team and OS team will work together. Sometimes you have to contribute some efforts as well to
yeah.
improve the performance of your application servers or database servers. If it's a database server, definitely you'll have a database SME for sure, and database SME knows which table, which query is consuming more resources, which is running for the longer duration, right? So they are
Mhm,
expert on that area. So your responsibility is to ensure that, like you mentioned, your virtual machine is up and running and it's good from the platform side, and
mhm,
you are able to provide the metrics to the application team or OS team. In case if it is the Azure native service monitoring, like log analytics workspace, if you are using a third party tool like Zabbix or Splunk, right? So the Splunk team will be there, and you have to, or Zabbix team will be there, you have to redirect the users to them so that they will be able to provide. So with all this analysis, application team confirmed, hey, application is working fine, and OS team says, OS is fine, but still you are seeing one of the Azure native service that is consuming more resources. Let's say one of the native services is backup or ASR service, or maybe Azure Fabric services. If they are consuming more resources, then that's your responsibility.
mhm,
Redeploying from Azure portal might move your virtual machine to another physical node in the backend. So in case the physical server have any issues, right? Performance issue, anything, so that will fix these problems. Even in case the redeploys are not working, then you can raise a support ticket with Microsoft, and Microsoft will be able to locate into the
mhm.
issue further, and if needed, they'll engage their core OS team, and they collaborate internally, and they'll try to help us to fix the problem. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
a
got
thing that you have to remember with respect to the performance issues. Okay,
yeah, got it.
so now let's talk about other use case, right?
Mhm.
So, did you work on any connectivity issues? Let's say one of the user is saying they are not able to access the application. So, you
Okay.
got a high critical ticket. How do you start troubleshooting? Can you tell me the step-by-step process?
Okay, so it's like for a single user having issue by application
Yeah, you can ask me
accessibility.
the questions. Okay, you can ask me the cross
Okay,
questions. Yeah, are you
okay.
saying is it a single user, multi-user? That's what your question is. That your question?
Yeah, yes,
Let's say it's a single user. So no, let's go
yes.
with the multiple users impact because
Multiple.
it's a critical situation, right?
Critical. Yeah, okay. Okay, so if the application is not accessible for the multiple users, yeah, basically I used to log into the server where the application is hosted. I used to try to browse it internally, whether it is giving the result there. So if that is fine, so okay, so the server side we are good. So we need to check in the configuration side. So if it is behind the load balancer, we need to check the rules are properly configured there to distribute the loads across the servers. So we need to check that. Um, Other than that, yeah, applications like you are talking about web applications, right?
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
gave a URL to your
yeah,
end user, and
end
end user
users,
is
yeah.
not able to access through URL. So in this scenario, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's say it's accessible within the server. Okay, that's a
Mm-hmm.
that's a good step that you have taken. You logged into the server, and you try to browse it from the OS level, which is working fine. But when they try
Yeah.
to access from the laptop, it's not working.
Okay, so yeah, we need to check whether we have if the application's internal application or it can be accessed from internet. So if it is an internal application, yeah, I can check like if the particular subnet is allowed to access the applications, or is there any firewall rule is blocking the application, means I mean application from the source network. So I can use the network watcher to check the connectivity from source to
Hmm.
destination.
Okay.
Uh, I can go through the NSG rules. Yeah, if anything blocking there, if HTTP or HTTPS is allowed or not, the energy is connected to the correct exact subnet where it should be. So I used to check all those things. Yeah, if it is the internal application. So yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing I used to do first. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good start. Yes, you're right. So in case if the application is not accessible, the first thing that we do is the server, right? Where this application is hosted. Okay. Sometimes the application owner or application end user, right? So they may not know where this application is installed, right? That's where you need to have an inventory of each URL and where this URL is hosted and what is the
Okay.
application server, who is the owner for the application servers. That's where the tags come into
Mhm.
the picture. Okay, so
Mhm.
then you will come to know, okay, this is the application server in the backend. Maybe the application server when you application URL when you do a telnet or something like that, right? So it will be
Mhm.
pointing to either a traffic manager, maybe a firewall in your cloud environment. If it is a firewall, you go to your firewall team and say, hey, this is the URL user is trying to access, right? So, and I see this is the network appliance that is it's reachable, right? It's resolving to that NVA. So can you check if there is anything that is blocking from the NVA side, right?
Mhm.
Probably you can ask, okay, what is the backend systems behind this NVA for this specific application? Usually the URLs are created by your network team, so they knows what is the backend systems. They might say, okay, this is going to the load Azure internal load balancer, probably, if Azure load balancer, maybe a direct application server. So they'll be able to provide you the server information or IP address. So that's where you will start your analysis as well, right? So you will
Yeah.
check, the server is up and running or not. It's up and running, and from which network they're trying to access. Okay, they are trying to access from their laptop. Did they connect to any VPN? Yes, they connected to VPN, and still it's not working. Then that's a situation you have to go back to firewall teams. Hey, this is accessible from OS level, but not accessible from the the user's laptop. So they will try to whatever you mentioned, right? Use network watcher to
Mhm.
identify which is source, which is target, and whether it is blocking or allowing, right? They do the same way. They try to capture the traffic just to ensure that whether the traffic is reaching to the firewall or not. In case if
Mhm.
there is any DNS related issues or any TLS related issues, so they'll be able to see, and they'll be able to assist you further. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go with the other scenario in the same context. Okay, so
Mhm.
your application team raised a critical ticket with you, and you are the engineer in the system in the shift, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, so as you already know, that's the server where this application is running. So you go and check the server, and you try to take RDP to the server. RDP is not working. So your goal is to log into the server to check
Mhm.
whether services are running or not, and applications accessible at the OS level with the local host or not. Those things you're going to check. But the first step is that your server is not accessible. So
Mhm.
what are the steps you do to validate what is the issue with the server, and how do you bring up the server online if the server have any problem?
Okay. So initially, when I try to RDP, if it is not connecting, I used to check the status of the server in the um, Azure portal diagnostic setting, whether if it is in the alt control delete page, the server is up and running. So I can make sure that. Then I used to connect. I used to go to the networking section of the VM, and I used to see whether any NSG is associated with that subnet or the VM level, or the RDP port is allowed there or not. I'll check that. So
No,
if
so
that,
don't tell me the very generic, Praveen, like others says, right? You should have to tell me the step-by-step process. Okay, you said energy ports you're checking. What is the use of checking the energy? So every subnet will have energy associated. Am I right?
okay.
Then what do you check in the energy? That is what I needed.
Yeah, I need to check the RDP port is allowed or not, like 3389 is allowed
So
or not.
from where? From where?
From the networking section of the VM. So if you open the console and if you go to the VM, you see the networking section, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
there you can.
You know, that's what I'm saying. So you said 3389 is open or not, right? What is the source
So source should be from my subnet, like where I am connected.
you are
Like
connecting from, right?
yeah,
So that
yeah.
is what I want to next, because
Okay,
this role, what I'm looking for is an L3 engineer, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, right?
okay.
I'm looking for very prompt responses. You know, I don't want any generic statements, okay? Just to
Mhm.
remind you, all right? So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'm just giving you feedback here, okay? So maybe
Mhm.
in the real interview, you may not get this kind of questions, but you know, I'm just caring more about you, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
just give me some more you know, specific. You said first thing what you said is, you know, VM is up and running. Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
controller delete screen. Okay, that's also good. Okay, why
Yeah.
you are checking the controller delete screen? You said, which means there is no problem with the VM, which is running fine in the backend, correct?
Yes.
And it's not going in a reboot loop or anything, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
then you have decided, then okay, platform side, which is fine, then there could be some issue with the network configuration,
Network level.
correct?
Yes. Yeah.
That's where you are going to check whether in NSG there are any modification, because it has been working fine, now it is suddenly
Mhm.
not working, which means
Mhm.
you are going to review the NSG rules. Okay,
Yes.
so what you are specifying is 3389 is open or not, right? So
Mhm.
3389, let's say it's open, right? It is
Mhm.
open, but is the required source is allowed or not? Like you
Allowed.
mentioned,
Yeah.
your network is allowed. That is what the point we have to make. Okay, and how do you validate? You can use the network watcher to
Mhm.
validate whether it is open or not, correct? So that
Yes.
is what you have to explain to us, right? So
Mhm.
that's one thing, that okay, networking section is fine. Okay, you allowed the port and it's connecting. All right, and the port is allowed, and in the network watcher, you see it's allowed. Okay, what is
Allowed.
the next thing that you do?
Yeah. If the network side it is allowed, then it should connect. So what is the next step I used to do? Um,
So remote is not working, right? What is the error? So basically, when somebody says you're not able to RDP, right, the first thing that you have to say, okay, what is the error you are getting? Are you getting a generic error message saying you're not able to connect to the server? Or is it saying some credentials are not working? Is it saying some network level authentication is failing? So such kind of, right? Always, whenever there's a problem occurs, you have to read the error message. Error message will give you some, at least some hint, and some problems will be fixed based on the error message. Let's say if I say network level authentication is not working, right? NLA, so maybe there could be some issue with the, you know, domain controller reachable. So some troubleshooting step that we follow. Okay, so yeah, do you have do you know about serial console? By any chance,
yes,
did you check?
Kamal. Yeah. Where I
Okay,
can. Yeah.
yeah.
Where I
So
can go, we can connect to the serial console. I can log into the server through the command prompt. So where I can see the status of the services or kind of services status, something like that. If you want to start anything or restart any services, we can do it from the serial console.
okay, okay, that's fine. So you are able to reach through serial console, but you're not able to reach through RDP session. So do
Mhm.
you know any other steps that you can perform in during that situation?
And it's through RDP. Whether yeah, then also I can check whether if uh, if the server has a public IP or it has only the private IP. If
No,
the
no. So in the, what is the usual standard you followed in your environment? Are you know, allowing the public IP?
no, yeah, we have only private IP for servers.
Yeah. So which means you already validated the IP is allowed, and you should be able to connect, but you're still not able to connect.
Yeah, if the network watcher says it is allowed, so network side also we don't have any issues.
And compute
So
side, no issues, but
compute
still
side already we have a controller delete screen,
you are
so we
able
are
to connect to serial console, which means
control.
the OS is fine, but some component which is blocking, right? So in such scenarios, right, maybe you can reset the RDP configuration. That's one thing. Through Azure portal, you can do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also perform the redeploy operation. You can always go for the restart, but redeploy is the best solution, I would say, because as I said, very rare situations, you will see the physical server might be faulted, might have some problem. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that, the NIC is not reachable, or some computer is not reachable, which we cannot see in the boot diagnostics. So redeploy is something you can try. See, as an Azure engineer, this is what you can try. Okay,
Okay.
redeploy, restart, and these things you can try. But in case if you still have the problem, then the OS level troubleshooting has to happen, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we take the disk snapshot and create a new disk out of it, attach to another rescue VM, and try to boot from the hypervisor and see what is the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you see the VM getting into the reboot loop, stuck at the blue screen error. So in such scenarios also, we take the disk snapshot or OS disk snapshot and try to attach to one of the rescue VM, and try to run from the Hyper-V console. So those
Mm-hmm.
things you try, and but again, it's most of the times out of your scope. But still, if
Mm-hmm.
if your organization is expecting you to do this troubleshooting, yes, you can learn it. There's plenty of documentation available at Microsoft, and you can just follow them to fix these problems. Okay. But in case if you have a team, then you can collaborate with them and try to fix these problems. Okay. And in such scenarios, okay, so you can also go back to Microsoft and take help from Microsoft by you have to create a support ticket, and they might assist you with the steps if you're not aware of it. Okay. But
Okay.
technically, you should be aware of the steps that you have to follow. Though you are not owning those steps, you should know, okay, you have to take a snapshot, create a rescue VM, and enable Hyper-V on it, or nested virtualization, and try to boot the VM from the Hyper-V console. Those things you can try for it. So these things, as a L3, you might have to guide your team. Though you don't do things, you might have to guide them. The L2 engineers might follow your steps, right? So you should know these steps when such situations occurs, right? So
Okay.
what we have isolated is compute. We have isolated the network. Okay. Then we
Mm-hmm.
see some one, maybe the one of the couple of services may be not running, maybe application is crashed. So those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things. So in such scenarios, maybe you work with your team and you fix the problem, but how do you identify the root cause? Okay. So the root
Mm-hmm.
cause could be, you if you want to identify in advance, in these situations we cannot identify the root cause because we rebooted, and we did all these things. After the reboot, my issue might fix, and we cannot. So you can also collect the crash dump and memory dump, and that's again a OS level troubleshooting that they do it. That might give you some root cause analysis. In case if it is an issue from Microsoft Azure platform, then Microsoft can provide the root cause for it. So you can also analyze, why this server all of a suddenly not connecting. Could be there could be recent patching might happen. Um, Recent patches might, giving this problem. Probably application team perform some upgrade, and that causes the operating system or application services to not function well. There could be various reasons. So the RCA also needs a collaboration between the OS team, application team, if needed, network team, and Azure team, right? So since it is running on Azure platform, so you might have to own the RCA part and provide the RCA to the end users. So this is about like troubleshooting any issues, not only application server connectivity issues, could be performance issues or any other issues that you're managing in the cloud environment. So it needs a collaboration. It's not always a technical skills that you have it and you are going to troubleshoot and fix it. You need to also know what steps we have to take and what actions we have to take at the situation. So in this case, so if I take the same situation, it's a critical situation, right? Application is down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So your OS team, Microsoft saying, hey, Praveen, we can fix this problem, but it takes some time, let's say approximately 4 to 5 hours. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then what do you do in the situation? It takes 4 to 5 hours to fix a production server, and multiple customers, multiple users and customers are impacted because of that. So how do you handle the situation? What
Yeah,
actions you have it? What steps you have to fix the problem?
but those scenarios we can restore from the previous timestamp points. We can create a new VM and we can attach to the backend pool of the load balancer, and we can detach this machine from out of the backend pool. We can analyze so what is causing issue. But so the application will be up and running until we find the uh, RCF from this server, so that we can make the application up and running, right?
Mm. Yeah. So one of the option you mentioned
Mm.
is, restore, right?
Yeah.
Probably you might have gone through a different direction. So basically, when the recovery of your application is taking time, 6 to 7 hours, you have to connect your application team and say, hey, this is going to take some time, and so I'm going to check whether the server have any backup. Since it is a production, so mostly you might have the Azure backup or any other third-party backup solution configured. So your options will be restoring from the backup. Okay.
Yes.
So before you restoring from the backup, right? So you restoring might take, let's say, 30 minutes, worst case, right? Maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Mhm.
So you need to understand what happened on the server, right? When,
Yeah.
let's say, now you are going to, let's say today, around 2 p.m. got an issue, right? And you
Hmm.
have a backup in the morning, 9 a.m. So what you do, you go ahead and restore from the 9 a.m. It takes 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, again, you see the same problem. So which means you need to understand, at least try to understand or set the expectation to the application team or everybody, right? Saying, okay, when was the, does anybody know, were there any changes happened? Okay, on the
Hmm.
application side or server side. If they say, okay, today we made changes at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and after that we rebooted a server and it's not working, then okay, going back to 9 a.m. might fix the problem. Okay, and if
Yes.
somebody say, okay, yesterday around 3 p.m. we made some changes, and today we rebooted a server, and post that server is not accessible or application not accessible, right? So
Hmm.
then going back to the today's 9 a.m. is not sufficient. Maybe you have to go back to yesterday's 9 a.m.
Yesterday's,
recovery
yeah.
point. So these
Yeah.
kind of things you have to set. And if nobody knows what changes happened, maybe they are not reluctant to tell you. Maybe you can go back to the Azure portal and see if there are any reboots happened, if any changes happened from Azure side. If nothing is identified, then you can say, okay, I'm going to try for 9 a.m. today. If it's not working, I'll go for yesterday's or day before yesterday's. We'll keep on trying until,
Hmm.
we see this issue fixed. Okay.
Hmm.
Parallelly, so you can ask your OS team to start troubleshooting. You can take a snapshot of your OS disk and give it to them and attach to your virtualization VM, and they will start troubleshooting from their side for the RCA purpose. So this is how you have to handle any critical situations. So it's like nothing technical, right? So you just restore from the backup. But
Yeah.
as an L3, you need to know what actions you have to take. So based on the situation and what options you have, and you have to, consider a best solution. All right. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's about performance and connectivity issues and critical situations, how you handle. I see you know, like 90% to 80% of things, but still there is a lot of improvement needed on this areas. Okay,
Yeah.
probably this could be the reason why, maybe there could be reason like you didn't get such a critical issues in your environment. Probably you might be dedicated for a couple of projects where you spin up the environment for them and troubleshoot basic issues, or probably, restores and backups, network, maybe setting up the environment, kind of things you have done because you already mentioned L2, but right.
Hmm.
So we are also looking for L3 or L2 plus. So
Hmm.
couple of things that you have to learn. Yeah, so I sense like, you are a perfect fit to for this position, but needs a lot of learning
Yeah, sure.
and a lot of things, right? Yeah, so yeah, so that's a feedback for now. So there are many things I want to cover. but I think it's going to be a very long video. So let's pause it for now, and we will try to create another video with some more questions that I want to cover. Okay.
Fine, Kamal. Yeah, I got it.
All right. So thank you so much, Praveen, for your time. And yeah, the overall feedback is good. I would say
Mhm.
if I am the interviewer and if I'm looking for L2 plus role in the Azure environment, I'm happy to take you into my team, and I'm happy to train you because I've got some confidence on you that you can learn, provided some giving some insights or give you some guidance. All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kamal. Yeah, thanks for the
So
feedback.
we'll connect again, and we'll try to cover a couple of technical other technical queries as well. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, sure,
Bye.
sure. Yeah, thank you.